Welcome to MyStockScanner Live. No hype, no guesswork, just three simple filters that separate strong stocks from the weak ones. We ask for quality, upside, and we look at the timing. The 3-point playbook portfolio sets at minus 1.5, slide up from yesterday. No buys, no sells. Hans-Henrik, are we spooked, scared, hesitant? What's the mood? And then the sound.
Small detail. Can't you read lips? All right. We are selling whatever gives us a sell signal, but that is most of the obvious sells are out. We have decided not to be eager buyers up towards the weekend. We are anticipating a bit of turmoil over the weekend here and in the beginning of next week. So
sounds like you're thinking about the night between Friday and Saturday, the famous
yes.
Trump day for doing bad things.
Yeah, to be honest, that is, he has given Iran a 5-day a 5-day extra to comply, and it doesn't seem like they're doing it. So could be boots on the ground this weekend.
We will be talking more about that for sure, because of course that has an effect on all stock prices. And I just see a headline came in a little over almost an hour ago. Trump urged Iran to negotiate a deal before it's too late, as he calls it.
Too late for whom?
Yeah, that's the question. That's not answered here. But Liam, it's Thursday. That means that we're going to talk about tech. And I'm going to ask you, did Alphabet or Google just save the memory crisis?
I don't think so. They, we'll talk about it in a sec, but they came out with this new algorithm that made memory stocks drop yesterday. But I suspect they'll be back up within a week or two.
We will definitely take an in-depth look at the tech sector, as we always do when Liam is with us. So once again, welcome to MyStockScanner Live, where we stay focused on what's actually moving markets right now. Today, as every day, I feel geopolitics are heating up again. Trump is pushing Iran toward negotiation while oil reacts. We'll also look at Vestas riding the alternative energy wave that, of course, is coming with higher oil prices. And we get a sharp rebound from ChemoMetec. And it seems there's a growing pressure around Novo Nordisk's leadership as they have a general assembly today. In tech, the AI battle keeps intensifying. We're going to talk Micron, Samsung, SK Hynix, AMD, and ARM. Yeah, we're going to get through the acronyms, all of them. Plus, Nordea gets downgraded, and fresh disappointments from Temu owner PDD, or Pinduoduo, as they're called. I don't know why I did that with the eyes. That was not intentional. But anyhow, guys, we're going to talk about the geopolitics. This guy definitely pushing Iran around, or is it the other way around? We can't make sure, because Iran, Hans-Henrik, really had an answer for Trump when he came to sort of the deadline.
Yeah, no one knows what's really happening behind the scene. It could be that there are negotiations. From what we can hear from the White House, almost sounds like pleading to meet at a negotiating table. As I saw, one of the Iranians said, "Well, we can't meet at that table because US blew it up." They're kind of humorous in their replies. Yesterday, one of them stood and said, "You're fired," to Trump on Iranian TV. It doesn't seem like they're that eager. What they demand is they should be left alone. They should own Hormuz. US should leave the Middle East. They should have full control of their own ballistic missiles, all of them, which is not going to happen. So
it's hard to call them reasonable demands. But Hans-Henrik, it feels like every second day we have one day where prices go up, then we have a day where they drop, then they go up again. It's I need to take my seasickness pills now.
This is I'm sorry to say, but this is the standard Trump. He does not like the markets tanking, and his right hand Besant definitely don't like when interest rates are going up, because he knows what that means. So they are trying to push the markets a bit around with the messaging. Right now, people are starting to count down and say, okay, what happens in 5 days if Iran gives them a bit fat middle finger? It seems like that is what is happening, and that is why we are probably not buying new stocks up towards the weekend here.
And what Hans-Henrik does every day is take the helicopter view early in the morning before 9 o'clock, and then he publishes the market scan, available, of course, in English as well. And this is where you get sort of the view from above, and get the macro sites that move the markets during a day. We'll explain during the show as we get to the difference. But Liam, I'm gonna ask you, because you are our Commonwealth correspondent, beauty expert, and tech expert at the same time. The Eurovision Song Contest as well. The reason why we brought that up is because France is talking to Australia, Commonwealth. That's why you are, and they're talking about critical minerals and critical metals. Buy them from Australia and not going to the US. We're simply giving up on the US, aren't we, here in Europe?
I think you're looking at securing supply lines here, and this is not exactly news. They've actually been talking since 2021, and they had a 1.5-year study where they decided that to support their battery technology they're trying to put into northern France, they're going to need a load of lithium and a load of rare earth minerals. I don't know why they took 18 months to work that one out. I mean, we could have taken 5 minutes and done it. But Australia have just come out and said France seemed to be more and more eager, I think their phrase was, I read desperate, to actually make a deal with them so that they can start funding this, because there's a massive push. They're putting a huge amount of money into defence, into industrials in the northern France, which is really sensible because they need to be self-sufficient.
And again, this is what Hans-Henrik and you do. You look at these new areas where there will pop up possibilities, and that can mean that we will be looking at Australian stocks fairly soon.
Yeah. You just got to turn your head around the other way and look at them, because they're obviously upside down, but really poor. Actually, even I'm going to say that's a poor.
Dad joke number one for the day. But we'll let you slide on that one.
I mean, it's an interesting area and the Australians are actually sort of really avid stock holders and traders out there. So it's going to be an interesting one. Australia is something that we will look at, because critical minerals, most of the critical minerals companies we look at are in really dodgy crackpot regimes a lot of the time that we wouldn't touch. But the Australian ones, I'm suspecting, will be in a slightly better quality than we used to.
We shall keep you posted. I know that you guys are doing your work even when you're not on screen here doing the work here. And Hans-Henrik, one of the things that you have been should we say falling in love with, or re-falling in love? I can't really do the phrase here, but you're warming up to Vestas. And tell us the story. One thing is, of course, the price in oil goes up, and then we look for alternative things. What are the other reasons why you think Vestas is getting back in favor?
Well, first of all, I just took Vestas here in our 3-point playbook. First of all, a while back when the conflict started, our first point in the analysis in our overall geopolitical macro analysis was, if this conflict drags on, it could be some sort of revival for green energy. We have seen that before, and we saw that up towards the financial crisis when oil was at 140. That it's all of a sudden a lot more. It's a better business to put up a windmill or some solar farms. However, just recently we actually said to our members, now it looks like wind and solar are on the move again. That is the analysis we normally do. But then we drill down and say, what could be interesting? Vestas just got a new order. Might be one of the reasons why it's going up these days. But if we look at them very quickly in a 3-point playbook, reasonable quality, it's dragged down a bit because they had a terrible earnings per share in 22. But this is what we talked about with the freight train that just moves. The PEG ratio is low, revenue is going up. Analysts are falling more and more in love with it again and believing a higher earnings per share target. Return on capital employed is going up. Free cash flow is going up. Overall, good quality. So our question number one, is this a quality stock? Yes, it is. Then if I just jump into a bit of a larger chart here, our system here suggests that when we do our value chart, we take the earnings per share, estimated earnings per share the next couple of years, and multiply it by different PE ratios. Our system here suggests between 18 and 26, which gives us a very good potential. Analysts, for some reason, haven't really followed this. What I think will happen, if our assumption is right, that people are pouring into wind and solar again, is that the PE ratios will go up. So from 26 to maybe 31, because people are running towards this stock. If we are right in this assumption, this is an even better case. And to be honest, just looking at the chart today with live here, you can see there's a bit of drawing here, but it has been going up here also because of big orders breaking up through the 50-day moving average. I will be looking for a little retracement, and I must admit, then I might be a buyer of Vestas at some point.
Okay, I'll note down the date. That's news for me, but that's all. That's okay. You can change your opinion. You're free. You're Danish. That's what we do.
That is what we do.
So
we are not married to any opinion.
no,
If things change, we change our
that's
position.
for sure. Just look at the election. But Hans-Henrik, talking about changing our opinion, the thing is, the ChemoMetec dropped 40%, and yesterday we were up 18.5%. And but do the math for me, because you are, after all, the teacher among us. The thing that a 40% drop and an 80.5% rise is not the same that you're halfway back.
No, that is how it is with the percentage calculation here. A 40% drop, you should think that 18% up, then that should be almost halfway, but that is not how it works. You have 100, you get down to 60, that is 40% down, and then adding 18% to the 60 doesn't really give you halfway back. But it did bounce, and we were talking about, the two of us, Jesper, yesterday. I wonder if this is a rebound scenario. Again, I heard the exact same thing in the beginning of February when this went down. They said it's an overreaction. It's now you should buy. Well, that would have been an expensive falling knife to try and catch. So we never tried that. It'll take ages for us to get into ChemoMetec again, because we have our trend criteria.
And that's something that we do with each and every stock. Even though that we joked that you were falling in love with Vestas, it's still the fundamentals that need to be right. The numbers need to be right. I'm going to ask you a quick question in regards to the general meeting there is on Novo today. Do Lars Rebien have a white rabbit in his back pocket, or in a tall hat, or whatever we call it? Is he going to save the day, and is Vestas going to bounce, or Novo going to bounce?
Novo, well, I'm not sure. Lars Rebien is an excellent leader, and what I think he will communicate is stability. He want to show that we have the structure in place. We have a long-term plan. We are following the plan. It goes as according to the plan. That is what I think he will, because he's known for being longer sighted than just to the next quarterly earnings or the next monthly stock report. So I think he'll communicate stability.
I'd also add that if he's got a top hat with a rabbit in it and he's wearing it, you're going to need to be stable. Otherwise it's going to be a nightmare.
That was number two of dad jokes. Let's get Liam going in the area where he's supposed to be. We're going to put him in a box, just like the horses at Grand National Steeplechase, and then say, let's talk about Google, because Google yesterday kind of were the culprit for Micron dropping. How's that connected?
Couldn't quite work it out yesterday why Micron was dropping, and then found out this morning they've come up with this new algorithm. So the reason Micron have gone up so much, I'll just load the chart while I'm talking, is because all the AI that's going on, all the infrastructure, all the inference, and the training and things like that really needs a huge amount of memory to do. So basically, Micron have come in and they've shot up since about September last year, and we jumped on the bandwagon about November and made quite a lot of money on it. So that's based on huge amounts of memory being required for the next 4 or 5 years. Google have come in and said, oh, hold on a sec, we've got this new algorithm, which actually we need about between 3 and 6 times less memory to do the same job. So it's actually 6 times worth of compression that goes into their TurboQuant, and they don't lose any data at the same time. So it's very clever tech they've come up with. It's available to everyone because it's what's called open source, so everyone can jump on and use that. And the memory stock's dropped. Quite a few analysts are saying at the moment is that generally when you make something cheaper and easier and more accessible, you actually get to use it more. So they don't actually see this being a major issue for Micron and SK Hynix and the other memory suppliers out there.
Yeah, because they all took a hit. It was not just Micron, it was also SK Hynix, as you mentioned. It was Samsung. It was even SanDisk that seems untouchable at the moment, and it still went down yesterday.
Well, the whole thing of this is this will almost certainly, transport itself across to the storage side of things, which is where SanDisk have really been a big player recently, and that's where they've got all their gains. Because not only is memory being required, it's also the type of memory that goes into hard disks that's going to sit right next to the chips, and that's a big push at the moment as well. Because basically, the AI has got a voracious appetite for data.
And since we are talking and we do this Tuesdays and Thursdays, we could do it 5 days a week if we wanted to, Liam, because there's always news in the AI sector. We're going to be talking AMD now, and we're also going to sort of segue into ARM and Intel. We are basically talking all the major names, and they're making moves. Again, Intel has been on a tear. ARM has been on a tear. AMD went up 7.2% yesterday. What's going on?
What's going on? So the two of these things are separate. So Intel and AMD are sort of the main thing that I'm going to talk about in the tech piece that I do today in the article that we publish. And what I've found is that the CPUs, which is what Intel and AMD make, they make the central processing units that actually sit in your laptops, in your computers, and run it. That's what does the hard work. They're also used an awful lot in AI, not necessarily for actual training. That's what the GPUs do in NVIDIA. It's for running inference, but also running networking and things like that. So there's still a huge amount of use. Prices are up 15% in the last few months for Intel and AMD, but what they've come out and said in the last few days is that they're going to be putting prices up again, and lead times for new CPUs has gone up from 1 to 2 weeks to somewhere between 2 to 6 months. So there's another supply crunch coming in for
I was going to
these
say
guys.
another bottleneck, and that
Yeah.
seems to be almost a big challenge now for the entire AI industry, that they have these bottlenecks. Is that going to end up dragging everything down and make prices go down on these stocks?
I think it will do two things. One of it is it will push. These guys have got sort of strong pricing power. If you look at something like AMD, Intel, to be honest, is a basket case. It's been a basket case for 20 years, probably more than that. It's I would rather buy Adobe stocks than the Intel stocks. Particularly, their management has really failed over the last sort of 20 years. Actually, and they've missed all the big upside. AMD, however, are a smart company. They're at the forefront of AI. They're behind NVIDIA. They're not the big guys in this. But if you look at where they've been priced before and where
Then you
they're
need to share your screen so
then I
we
need
can
to share
look
my
at it.
screen.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I did just. There we are. Yeah. So it's actually bounced on my blue line here, which actually shows at the end of the year they could be up 70%, something like that. And in our worst case scenario, they're about break even for the end of the year, and then there's even more coming in next year. So from that perspective, they've got huge pricing power. It's now whether they can actually get the technology built and delivered, and that's where TSM comes in, and that's where the lead times are starting to go out a bit. That brings us on to ARM. They announced yesterday. So ARM, as a company, really high quality company, fantastic at what they do. Are they cheap at the moment? They're not quite as good a buy, in my opinion, as AMD, but they have some upside and they have a little bit downside as well. What ARM do is they to date they've licensed their technology, and they've said if you want a really fast, really power economical chip, then buy our RISC processing design. You can get someone else to make them, and they get a royalty off of everything that's sold. So a lot of the Apple stuff that goes out there is done through ARM. A lot of the other small mobile companies use ARM technology because it's so power efficient. What they came out with yesterday and said, oh no, actually now we're going to be developing AI chips as well for inference. So they're moving towards becoming a competitor to their clients. And that's going to be interesting. They jumped 16, 17% yesterday. So yeah, they were up big time. Again, the company that's going to build all of this is TSM. They're the ones that sort of I'm probably more interested in than these guys because they've just got so many clients coming in and saying, build something for me.
And the thing is, this is what Liam Flavelle does every Tuesday, every Thursday when he puts out his tech pieces. He goes in depth with this. And if you are a member of our MyStockScanner.com membership, if you have that, then you get to read these. And I will suggest that you take the free membership and run with it, because you will enjoy having all the dots connected from Liam Flavelle. I'm almost going to suggest, Hans-Henrik, that Nordea should start producing chips, because it seems like that's where the money goes. If you just say that you're going to produce chips, then it goes there. And Nordea, over the last couple of days, has dropped a bit, but not so fast, because there's a reason for it, Hans-Henrik.
Yes, if we just look at the last couple of days, we had a single one asking us a bit in panic, saying, why has my Nordea stocks dropped? The reason for the big drop was that they have announced dividends. This ex-dividend day that is confusing some new investors. Right now, I have a chart here where I have adjusted for dividends. If I remove that, when they pay out dividends, the stock normally drops approximately the same amount as the dividend is, and that is basically because they are giving back a share of the company. But the company is not really getting worth, or not getting worse at least. So I normally adjust for dividends. Overall, Nordea has dropped. There was some downgrade from, what was it, Bank of America?
Bank of America.
I think it was.
Yep.
They upgraded the Danske Bank. We have been out saying for a couple of years that with high interest rates and no recession in sight, people should consider having some money in the financial sector. But with a potential recession inside, or at least talk about recession, we were out saying here in January, saying the overall, this is an ETF covering the financial sector, saying something indicates that we are starting to tip down a bit. We got double red in our MTI indicator, and that is what has also hit the Nordea and several other large banks.
And since we're talking recession, which means that people have less money between their hands, and that means they're going to spend less, I'm just wondering, Liam, is that what happened to Temu's numbers? Is that showing already that people are buying less? I won't say crap, I'll say plastic things from PDD in China. Is that what happened yesterday?
Swim Barbies.
Swim Barbies.
Right
that
down.
could be,
Yeah.
could be the thing.
That's a blast from the past. We haven't talked about that for a while. That's probably confused an awful lot of people as well. PDD, which is what you, I think, just said. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but it's a massive Chinese company that owns the Temu store, amongst other things. They've got a big AI sort of operation as well out there. So they've come out. They just missed analyst estimates. They didn't miss them by too much. So, and I think the market is more looking at the potential for them going forward. From a company point of view, it's got a quality score of 94. This is traded on the US market. Quality score of 94. The earnings look a bit flat. They're not really going anywhere, and they're down slightly this year, which is why we haven't got a PEG ratio, because there's no growth in there. But everything else, the returns are coming back. So the company's actually getting more efficient, and it's producing absolutely bucket loads of cash, which is what we always like. And it hasn't got a problem with debt. From a valuation point of view, we liked it a while ago, and it's sort of starting to make profits now. We can see sort of just with these settings, I'd probably move sort of the upsides and the downsides down here. Looks to be bouncing right on sort of the point where it bounced on April the 10th last year, which is when Trump had his tariff announcement. So that could be a good sign. So you could actually see some decent upside here over the next 10 months or so until the end of this year. From a timing point of view, it's bouncing. That was yesterday. It's up 5%, I think, today as well. So it's probably up here. So if we could see a bit of a retracement and then a bounce off to 50, that could be a good entry point for this.
And see, what Liam just did there is something that we do over and over and over again. It is the 3-point playbook sort of analysis that we do. And if you want to be taught how it's done and how we made 34.48% last year in dividends, or not in dividends, but in upside on our portfolio, then we have 2 webinars next week. The first one on March 31st at 7 o'clock in the evening, Central European time, is with Liam Flavelle, and we will go through the 3-point playbook step by step, slowly, and it might be a good sort of education to get as we are may be heading into recession, and this works even in crisis and outside crisis. So you need a clear strategy for what's coming at you. April 1st is not an April Fool's thing, but we have a webinar at 7 o'clock in the evening. Hans-Henrik and I will be there on Wednesday just before Easter. In the beginning of the show, I was supposed to say 2 numbers, and that's the number of the day. I'm going to bring them up anyhow, even though I didn't say it at the beginning of the show, because it is an interesting one. I want both of your reaction to it. The numbers were plus 4.5 and then minus 14.7. As you can see from the chart on your screen here, it's how the indexes have done after the war in Iran, or the conflict in Iran, if you want to call it that. Israel up by 4.5%. United Arab Emirates down by 14.7%, somewhere in the middle, if you can call it that, 9.1% down. The UK. Liam, your reaction to this chart that you see here?
I'm not really surprised. I think the Kospi is the interesting one there, South Korea. That's basically tech, it's memory. That's what's really pushed them forward, and processing delivery to companies. And yeah, they had a fantastic year last year, and I think they're paying for it now.
And Hans-Henrik, if we look at the top, Israel that are being bombarded with drones and what have you, missiles from Iran at the moment, as they're looking back at them.
That's the only one that surprises me a bit. The Israel index there. MOEX, the Russian, well, they have had a lot of sanction lifted, so they are benefiting a lot from the war. That might be it. If you look at the Qatar, the UAE, well, they are in the middle of the war, and then you can look at most of the others. That is mainly an energy thing, where in Europe we're gonna need so much gas. We can't get it out. We shifted from Russia to US and Middle East because Trump demanded that. So then he started a war, so we can't get it from Middle East, and now he is threatening to deny us LNG from US because we don't play nice. So we're gonna be in so much trouble.
No wonder that Vestas are doing fine. They are up almost 4% today. They were up about the same yesterday, even more. So there's no doubt that we're going to be our own suppliers of energy. That's what we're looking at. We'll see how that plays out.
Better hurry.
Yeah, better hurry, as you say. Well, I'm going to hurry here because we are running over time. Gents, always a pleasure to have you with us. Liam, you're going to be back on Tuesday, but you're going to put out your Thursday tech. Just give us the headline one more time if somebody showed up late.
We're looking at AMD and Intel and ARM today, and how they're linked and what they do and which one's the best.
So keep an eye on that on our website, MyStockScanner.com. Hans-Henrik and I are going to be back tomorrow at 12 noon with the show in Danish. Thanks for watching. Happy investing out there.